nuk është koha për ndryshime, dhe me sa mbaj mendon, asnjëherë nuk ka qenë një kohë e tillë. Shtëpia frenon, mbasi gjithçka është kaq e rrejnë. Gorricat, unazat, makina e qumshtit, fëmijët e ngecur si gjilpërat me kokë, në një xhaketë pa jak tek rroba qepsi, që pret për një tjetër provë. Zakonisht, hemofilia dhe nevoja për ndryshim trashëgohet në linjë maskullore. Burrat mund t'i njohësh vetëm në profil, si monedën romake me kokën e Cezarit, me shikim të ngulur drejt humbjes. Kurse gratë janë ato që nuk harrojnë të ndezin llampën e verandës në mbrëmje, rrethuar nga mushkonjat, me bindjen se, pavarësisht se si, çfarë është shkruar për të ndodhur, të ndodhë.
This poem is called It's Not Time For. Most of the poems that we're going to read have been translated by Henry Israeli with a variety of other co-translators. And unfortunately, you only want to read one poem in Albanian, don't you? So the rest of it is me at the moment. We're going to do about 5 poems, and Luljeta is reading tomorrow night as well, where she'll be reading a different set of poems with more poems in Albanian. So this is It's Not Time For. It's not time for a change. For as long as I can remember, it's never been time for a change. The house dampens. Perhaps everything is a forgery. The wild pears, wedding rings, the milk van. The children faltering like a tailor's pins in an unfinished jacket, awaiting another try. Passed from generation to generation, like haemophilia, change is carried by the male chromosome. You can recognize these men by their profiles, like Caesar's face, a laurel on his head, staring into the failure stamped forever on Roman coins. Women, on the other hand, never forget to turn on the veranda light late in the evening, the bulb covered in mosquitoes, believing that in spite of what they do, what is written will happen. And the next poem is called When Love Begins. It enters my days arrogantly, like the silence after the clap of a judge's mallet. I sway in the slightest breeze across a field of wheat, awaiting the harvest. It arrives when I think I'm safe, when I think all I am is just a spine, strong, without a chest or a belly, without a navel, like a cellar full of food stored for the winter. I hesitate for a second, ready to start over again with a clean painter's palette, dark fingerprint in its centre. Then I set off on the same road, the end of which I know best, a cold bullet bulging in my pocket, the one every good soldier saves for the day he finds himself surrounded. And then there's a longish poem called Monday in 7 days in the book, and it's a 10-part section, and I'm just going to read 3 parts, starting with part 5. Broken toys were my playthings, zebras, wind-up Chinese dolls, ice cream carts given to me as New Year presents by my father. But none was worth keeping whole. They looked like cakes whose icing had been licked off by a naughty child, until I broke them, cracked and probed their insides, the tiny gears, the batteries, not aware then that I was rehearsing my understanding of freedom. When I first looked at a real painting, I took a few steps backward instinctively on my heels, finding the precise place where I could explore its depth. It was different with people. I built them up, loved them, but stopped short of loving them fully. None were as tall as the blue ceiling. As in an unfinished house, there seemed to be a plastic sheet above them instead of a roof at the beginning of the rainy autumn of my understanding. And the last 2 sections of the poem. Medio tetutimus ibis, the middle is the safest ground. The embroidered tablecloth in the middle of the table in the middle of the carpet in the middle of the room in the middle of the house in the middle of the block in the middle of the town in the middle of the map in the middle of the blackboard in the middle of nowhere. Lola is an angel. Her forehead hasn't grown since she was 8, her centre of gravity unchanged. And she likes edges, corners, although she always finds herself in the middle of the bus, where people rush towards the door at either end. My neighbours never went to school, nor have they heard of aesthetics, and hardly ever have they read anything about the Earth's axes, symmetry, or absolute truth. But instinctively, they let themselves drift toward the middle, like a man laying his head on a woman's lap, a woman who, with a pair of scissors, will make him more vulnerable than ever before the day is done. Last section of the poem. Preparing for winter isn't tradition, but instinct. We hurl our spare anxieties like precious cargo from a shipwreck. Tedium vitae is a time zone that no longer exists. The smell of boiled beans separates us from our neighbours. A dream above the stove separates us from our ancestors. There isn't a middleman between me and my talents. The wind preaches with the nasal voice of a false prophet. Years somersault over frozen slopes, and we instinctively hide our heads between our knees. Limits wither away. My body, more abstract than ever, is a country without an anthem, a country delirious and at once near death, which I touch like a mother touching her lips to the forehead of her child with a high fever. And just two short poems to finish. Women and Giraffes.
21.
Yeah? Women and Giraffes? The woman remembers. Once she was a member of a family of giraffes. Their skin so warm it baked the air to terracotta. A giraffe's strength resides in its neck, in its long and muscled neck. Its suffering, too, resides in the neck, in its bending over tropical trees. One day, the entire herd was blotted out, their heads, slender knees, spotted backs, gone. Only necks remained, oblique giraffe necks, confounded amidst blank paper, like boarding ladders on an airport runway, clumsily dragging themselves along after the planes take off. So have we got time for
the last one?
Last one?
Yes.
Last one, Mystery of Prayer?
Yes. Misteri lutjeve. Në familjen time lutjet bëshin fshetas, ku 20 ullët, me një hund të skuqur në një organ, gati mërmëritje, me një pëshërtim në fillim dhe fund, të hollë dhe të pastër si një garës. Por rreth shtëpisë kish vetëm një palë shkallë për të ngjitur. Ato të drunjtat, në mbështetura gjithë vitin pas morit, për riparimin e tigullave në kusht parashireve. Në vend të engjëve, hipnin në zbritin burra që vuanin nga shiatiku. Ata luteshin duke u shikuar sy me ta, si një marrëveshje kryezotësh, duke kërkuar një shtyrje afati. Zot, me forcë, e asgjë më shumë, se ishin pasardhësit e Esaut, të bekuar me vetëm gjë që mbeti për Jakobit, shpata. Në shtëpinë time, lutja ishte një dobësi, që nuk përflitej kurrë, si të bëri dashuri. Dhe njësoj si të bëri dashuri, pasohej nga nata e frikshme e trupit.
The mystery of prayers. In my family, prayers were said secretly, softly, murmured through sore noses beneath blankets, a sigh before and a sigh after, thin and sterile as a bandage. Outside the house, there was only a ladder to climb, a wooden one, leaning against a wall all year long, ready to use to repair the tiles in August before the rains. No angels climbed up, and no angels climbed down. Only men suffering from sciatica. They prayed to catch a glimpse of him, hoping to renegotiate their contracts or to postpone their deadlines. Lord, give me strength, they said, for they were descendants of Esau, and had to make do with the only blessing left over from Jacob, the blessing of the sword. In my house, praying was considered a weakness, like making love. And like making love, it was followed by the long, cold night of the body.
Thank you.
Thank you.